welcome to Mrs Mosaic Studios. Today I'm just going to show you a little bit of the basics introductions to cutting glass. So there's various different ways you can cut glass, as there is to a lot of things in life. We're going to be using an oil-filled glass cutter today. You can see the oil is in there. There's a wheel across the top there that does the scoring, and that's my preferred tool really. If you're looking to buy one, I avoid some of the ones that have got very thick tips because they get in the way of you being able to see what you're doing with the cutting. I'm using some coloured glass here today. This one is a clear blue glass, and then I've got a few different other shades as well to show you. So to begin with, you hold a glass cutter in the opposite way to the way you hold a pen. So you can either hold a glass cutter like this, or the way I was taught, to hold it between these two fingers. This takes a lot more practice, so if you're just wanting to have a quick taste of glass cutting, I would stick with that. So always make sure the brass ball is in the palm of your hand and your fingers are pointing down the length of it. There's a screw thread at the top of the glass cutter. You want that to be on the top. So there's a few pointers to remember. Screw thread at the top, the ball part in the palm of your hand. If you can, it's better to have the power of your body behind your glass cutting. So I'm going to stand up to show you how to do the glass cutting. Right, so when you come to do glass cutting, really important feature is you need to wear goggles. And you can get ones that go over your glasses like this. You wear an apron, and it's really helpful if you have a sheet of white paper underneath the glass that you're cutting. As you can see, if I put it straight on my board there, you can't see much. You should always have a dustpan and brush close by to sweep up any shards, and between every cut you make you need to sweep down your work area. So you get your oil-filled cutter, test it on your paper, you can see if it's giving off some oil. To cut a straight line, and we're going to do this without a guide or a ruler because there's a lot to concentrate on when you first begin. So with one hand you hold the glass in place, and with your other hand, can you see I've got it at almost a right angle to the glass. You start on the edge of the glass and then you pull it down towards you. As you get to the bottom of your score line, that's what they call this, you want to lift off slightly the pressure that you're applying. It does take practice, and you will be listening for a sound that the score line will make with your glass cutter. So you get your glass cutter lined up on the edge of the glass, you apply your pressure, and then you pull it towards you. The more controlled you can be over this manoeuvre, the better. So can you hear that sound? That's the sound you're looking for to know that you're cutting correctly. And then just as I get to that edge, I just lift off slightly. Why I say to lift off, it's because if you carry on with the weight that you're putting behind your body, it will crunch off the edge of the glass, and you don't want that sound or that noise. Right, so now you can see we've got a nice line going down there. That's called your score line. You now need to part the glass. So I'm putting the pads of my index fingers and my thumbs on the top, holding the glass in between, and I'm nice and close to that line. Make sure you've got contact with your surface, and then you do a gentle push upwards. And that's how you do a straight cut in your glass. Right, so we've done a straight line on the glass without using any tools. Now I'm going to show you how to use a straight edge to get a nice straight line. So the board I'm using has got battens creating a right angle there. This is a specially designed ruler for cutting glass. It's got a lip on it there. That lip pushes up against the edge of the glass. So you can see I've got the ruler pushed against my board, and I've got my glass pushed against that lip underneath the set square. So the same method of cutting still applies, but now you're having to engage this hand by spreading your thumb and forefinger on the ruler, and then the other fingers gripping the glass on the other side. And then you apply the pressure, you're listening to that sound, you bring it down towards you, and then just at the end there you lighten off the push. So you've got your score line again. Again, you can push upwards. If you feel nervous about making that parting with your fingers, there's a lot of glass cutting tools. This one, once people use this, they don't go back. It's called cut running pliers, and they're very cheap to get hold of, and they've got a nice little bump there and a line there. You hold that and line that black line of the cutter against the score line. Again, have contact with your board, and then you just apply a bit of pressure, and that does the passing of the glass for you. Right, I'm going to show you now how to do curves. So far when we're cutting straight lines, we've been pulling it down towards us. Now when we're cutting curves, you push away. So I'm just going to do a freehand gentle curve along this blue piece of glass. Remembering to lighten off at the end. There you go, you've got a nice wiggly little line there. When it comes to doing curves, it's not so simple of just breaking it. You've got to weaken that score line, and how we're going to do that is by using the brass end of the glass cutter. We're going to tap along that line. And if you're listening really carefully, you will hear the tone change as I tap that glass. So that's 2 taps. I'm going to do a third one here. Now, I don't know if you can see this. It's gone all the way through. Can you see as I move that in the light? There's a line going through that. It's probably ready to go, but just for precaution, I'm going to tap this end now, a few gentle taps. So I'm quite precise with the tapping. It's not banging away, which I've seen a lot of students trying to do. A couple of really precise taps along that line. So now, that's how you part that. Okay, so I've just shown you how to do a freehand gentle curve. Now I'm going to show you something that's more complicated. I'm going to do a gentle sort of like oval shape, I think, but you'll be able to see the techniques you're going to need to make that piece. So I've got a really quite tight curve going on there. Now, if I try and break that or even tap along it, what will happen is the score line will want to follow the course of least resistance. So at that point there, it might go across straight or across here. So how you counteract this is you create a series of contoured score lines to weaken the glass that you don't need to keep. So, word of caution with this though is don't score against where you want it to break away. So I'm going to do a number of those. Never ever go over the score line. If you do it wrong, you've wasted that piece of glass. You have to throw it away. And the reason I say that is that if you go back over that score line, then you're going to gnarl up the end of your glass cutter. So just put it down to experience that piece and try again with another piece of glass. Or if you're doing it for practice, turn the glass over, so at least then it's not going to block your glass cutter. So again, you could do a series of taps, and I quite like to have a dustpan and brush underneath this because it's going to get messy. And you see they're all starting to shatter and go through. But what we want to do is do this in a controlled way. So this tool is called grosing pliers. There's a curve over the top and it's flat underneath. You use this to do the same action as what your hands are doing, but it's just your hands aren't being put in danger. So you just do a gentle pulling down motion along those lines and break away the pieces you don't want to keep. There we go. So if you want to create more tighter curves than this, think about what it is you're designing. Can you adapt your design to make the lines less challenging? That's the first thing I'd suggest. A bit more tapping. There we go. And that's a nice type. So now we're going to move on to cutting opaque glass. This glass, not much light is passing through it. There's a little bit, but it's actually impossible to put a pattern underneath it and see through it. Not impossible, but it's difficult. So if you have a clear piece of glass, you can very easily be able to follow a pattern underneath. But when it comes to opaque, you're going to need to find a solution. The simplest solution to this is to have your pattern on top and draw around it. So I've just got a little Posca pen here. I'm just going to... With time and experience, you get to know which side of the glass to cut. Some glass it's very obvious that it's got a bumpy side. You always try and cut on the smoothest side of the glass. This, both sides are quite similarly, they've got a few sort of bumps and textures on it. So it's a step up from cutting clear glass. You also have to decide how to map out your piece. It's not like cutting fabric, so you can't use all of the wastage with glass. So we've got a little outline drawn on this piece of glass here. So that's the easiest way to tackle cutting out glass that you can't see through. So I'm going to give this a go. I tend to work on the outer line first in this situation, then if I don't do the cut correctly, I've got a little bit more movement, and I've obviously maximised getting another piece out of there. So you could hear that sound, couldn't you? Now we're just going to tap along it. So the more texture on a piece of glass and the more colour makes it just a little bit more complicated to get done. There we go, quite happy with that. Got a little piece there. So that's how you approach cutting glass that you can't see through.